If you took my quiz on slowing down, you may now be wondering, all right, but I'm just so busy, there's no possible way. Today I'm going to show you a tool that can track whether or not you really are busy, and then you'll be able to make some real adjustments to your life to slow down in a way that feels good and makes you remember why you love this life. So the tool we're talking about today is called time tracking. And it is annoying, I'm not going to lie, but I'm going to show you two ways that you can do it. And then after you have that information, you'll have the data you need to live the life you want. So let me show you those two ways. One way to do time tracking is to take a sheet of paper and type out or write out all the hours at the half hour. So let's say you get up at 6 o'clock. You would take a piece of paper and you would write 6 o'clock, 6:30, 7, 7:30, all the way down to when you normally go to sleep. And you make 3 columns. So the time is one column, then the what you're doing is the second column, and then the third column is, and this is really important information and something I didn't do the first time I did time tracking. So consider this sort of a bonus tip. You want to track, did that energize you or did that deplete you, or was it just neutral? You know, some things are just neutral and that's totally okay. But if it was draining, you need to know that because that information will be helpful when you make decisions in the future. So how it works is every half hour from when you wake up, you write down what you're doing, and then are you drained or are you energized or are you neutral? I'm pretty neutral about things like brushing my teeth, right? Pretty neutral can be, actually, now that I think about it, pretty neutral about getting dressed, but sometimes that's stressful. You never know. Anyway, and you just every half hour, you write down the what you're doing, but be specific. So we have a tendency when we're doing this kind of thing to write down meeting, but I want you to write down who you're having the meeting with or what the meeting is about, because that is a nuance that's pretty important. Because when you start to have meeting after meeting after meeting and they're all draining you, it might be the who or the what rather than the meeting. So be specific. Not just working. What were you working on? Were you working on a project? Were you writing an email? Were you writing a letter? You know, what was it that you were doing actually? If you say cleaning, be a little bit more specific with that. I was decluttering, or I was doing just a top to bottom pickup, or, you know, I was folding all the clothes. Be specific. That information will be more helpful to you than sort of broad categories. So that's how you do it. And you do it for 3 days, but not consecutively. What I think is the most important is to capture 2 midweek days, and everybody's midweek is different. Some people, their weekend is in the middle of the week. So don't think of it as the midweek of a 7-day calendar. Think of it as your midweek. So what is your working week? Put that, and even if you're a stay-at-home mom or a stay-at-home parent, you know, what does that midweek look for you? Which is always different than the weekend. It just is. And so I suggest 2 time tracking days of those, the midweek days, and then 1 of the weekend. You can choose either what is equivalent to your Saturday or your Sunday. And you could do both if you wanted, but you don't need to. They are reflective of a different kind of space most of us have made in our head. And so it's good to see where you spend your time. Now, you will find, like I did, that there's a lot of time somewhat wasted. Don't feel bad about that. That is just how we are as humans. This is not a tool to force you to be productive 24 hours a day. I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in you understanding where you're spending your time. And there's no shame in any of it. It's just information. So that's one way. And then the second way is very similar, but just a little bit different. When you get up, you just set a timer for 30 minutes, and then When it rings, you write down what you had been doing the previous 30 minutes. Same thing, what you were doing, and then how you felt about it. Were you energized, or were you depleted, or was it just neutral? And then you set the timer again, it goes off in a half an hour, and you just keep doing that all day. So it's no preloading of a list, basically. You're just writing that as you go. You can write the time when the timer went off. And that's good if, like, I don't know, I don't wake up at the same time or on the hour. So that's a very easy way to do this. And just take your timer with you throughout the day. Now, I understand that if you're having a meeting or you're in the middle of something, you're not going to be able to write it down right at that time. But what you can do is silence your alarm. If this is the tactic you're taking, silence your alarm and then just take note of it on your phone or on the notes you're taking, or, really anywhere. And you can transcribe it onto that piece of paper. This information will give you the data that you need to decide, am I really busy, or am I wasting a lot of time, or am I feeling drained by everything that I do? Am I not doing anything that lights me up? Am I not living the life I really want to be living? When I started doing this about 10 years ago, I was very surprised at, how much time I was scrolling, or how much time I was, in meetings or in projects that did not light me up in any way. And I had to make some real choices around that. And you would think I would have just known, but we live our lives a little bit on autopilot. And because of that, this time tracking tool can be really helpful. It's no cost, it doesn't bother anyone. It's just you trying to get a grasp on what is it that you actually do every day. And then that'll give you the data you need to decide if any of it needs to be scrapped so you can actually slow down. I hope you find this useful, and if you haven't taken the quiz, I highly recommend that you do that, because it'll give you some of the things that you're thinking about to decide whether or not you want to slow down in your life. We see all these videos about slow living or being minimalist, or people who seem to have these great expanses of time and wonder, how could we have that too? And I think that most of us can have it, but first we have to know what it is that we're doing. So do the time tracking and take the quiz, and we'll continue this conversation about how you actually go about living a slower, simpler life.